everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hate Read. I'm Anna.
And I'm Em. Every fortnight here on Hate Read, one of us challenges the other to read a book that we think they'll hate, and then we talk about it. This fortnight, I challenged Anna to read A Dog's Purpose by W. Bruce Cameron. So first things first, Anna, did you finish the book?
I did, and
Yay.
I had such mixed feelings about this
Yeah?
one. Yes, I am so confused because there was a lot about this book that I hated. Like the tone of the narrator and some of the situations that the character goes through, but then there were parts of it that I really enjoyed and wanted a lot more of.
See, I loved almost everything about this book.
Did you really?
I really did. I really liked it.
How would you rate it on Goodreads? Out of 5 stars. How would you rate it on GoodReads?
Right. I don't actually use Goodreads, so I'm not sure what their star system is.
It's just 1 through 5, no half stars.
Right, but it's like 5 means love it, 4 means like it, 3 means something, and...
It's 5 is amazing, 4 is really liked it, 3's liked it, 2 is okay, and 1 is did not.
Then I'd give it a 3.
A little bit skewed towards liking this book. I also rated it a 3-star.
Yeah, I really liked reading it, but it's not a book that, it's one of those books where while I was in it, I was like, oh, I really, really like this, I'm enjoying this, but then afterwards I was kind of like, I don't know. So, I'd definitely read more books by him, but it wouldn't be a book that I'd reread a lot, you know?
So, would you be interested in picking up the sequel, getting a little ahead of ourselves here?
I think so. I would.
Even though it's more of the same?
Yes.
It does have a beagle on the cover, which makes me predisposed to it.
But I guess we should probably talk about what happens in this book, if people don't know.
Yes. What is this called? A Dog's Purpose. I forgot the title of the book already. Tells the story of a dog who keeps being reincarnated as different dogs as it is trying to find out what its purpose is as a dog. And each of its reincarnations helps it learn a new lesson to help it become a better dog in the next life. Which sounds super stupid. Me saying this aloud now, it's like, that's not a dumb book. But it, I don't know. It worked surprisingly well for as gimmicky as that sounds. And so I guess we can break it up kind of by talking about each life.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Because a lot happens that is not necessarily related to the main story in each of these dogs' lives. And I think even if someone were interested, he has written each of the dogs' lives as separate stories, I think for younger readers.
Yeah, I think they're
he's
for kids.
Broken them up. Yeah, like Toby's life he did not rewrite, but the other 3 dogs he did. So the first dog, what is a singular reincarnation? Like the first
I think it's just a reincarnation. Because plural reincarnation is reincarnations. So
yeah, okay. So the first, well, no, there's a word I'm thinking of. The first version of this dog is named
1.0.
Yeah, dog 1.0 is born to a feral dog, and he has a sister and 2 brothers. And I thought, based off this first section, if all I had read was the story of this first dog, I would have hated this book with every fiber of my being. Because it was horrendous. So, this poor dog's life. So born to a feral mother, this dog, the first part of the book kind of details how the dog learns how to fend for itself as an animal that doesn't get fed regularly by humans, and is taught how to kind of sneak around and avoid people for the most part, and blah, blah, blah. Until, the first thing, I was debating.
You have to get through the sentence.
I know. I have to have a first sentence. I was debating keeping a doggy death counter for this book.
I did.
Because I thought there was going to be a lot of them, but there wasn't as many as I thought.
Yeah, because this one had a lot. This one was kind of heavy loaded. I kept an animal death counter.
Okay.
because there was like, well, we'll get to it. There were other animals that died too.
Yes. Oh my God, there's so many cats. But so the first dog death is the runt of the litter, whom the main character calls Hungry. And basically they died because they were hungry. They didn't get enough food to eat. But
no, there was something going on with that dog though, because it was like
some disease from
yeah,
eating garbage.
I think so, because like they said something about, oh, we knew that Hungry wasn't long for this world even when he was first born and whatever. So like, because he was getting fed all the time, so he had some situation going on.
Yeah, he was suckling at the teat quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so that dog dies, and I think like the same day Hungry dies, their mother and the three of them, the three other puppies, are caught by a woman named Senora and her two, I don't know, like her two flunkies, her two friends, her two live-in boyfriends. I don't know who they work for her,
because they say
maybe sons.
They work for her because they said, they're like, oh, no more dogs, please, Senora. And then she's like, well, I pay you guys enough, it'll be fine. Oh, so okay, they're like her employees for this like dog sanctuary she wants to run but doesn't have proper permits for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if it was really a sanctuary so much as she just like felt bad for dogs and collected them when she found them in the wild.
I think if it had been a different time period, it would have been like a dog sanctuary, but this was supposed to be at least...
Oh yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah,
this is like in the 50s or 60s.
At least. Well, it's pre-60s because the next one is in the 60s. So it's got to be at least 50s, but then there's the big time jump between number 2 and number 3. So I think this is probably supposed to be even earlier than that.
Yes. So, yeah, we really don't get a good sense of when most of the story takes place, except for a few hints in, like, Bailey's storyline. And then I think there was, like, some mentions of Y2K in
Ellie's.
Ellie's. Okay, that's who it was, yeah. So they get captured and taken away to this place that the narrator only calls the Yard. And he is renamed Toby. And he and his brother,
Fast.
Fast. They kind of, live their life in the yard as puppies, or I don't know, just living the good puppy life, or what they think is a good puppy life, because at this point the main character doesn't really have a lot of dog experience, I guess. I don't know. It's just the thing with this whole book is, like, it's told from this very naive perspective of a dog. And so you're reading about some really horrendous situations, but, like, with this weird optimism and naivete of a dog, which gave this whole book a weird tone.
It kind of reminded me of, and this is going to be completely different. Obviously, this other book I mentioned, I'm not trying to compare the situation in this book to being a dog, but there's a book called When the Emperor Was Divine by Julie Otsuka, which is about the Japanese internment camps, and it starts off being told, it's told in 4 perspectives, and yes, I know, stop making that face. Wait a second, let me get to it.
Okay.
The first perspective is the mother, and then it goes to the younger daughter, and then the youngest son. So it gets told so it's, again, like, by the time they're in the actual camp, it's this very naive perspective that doesn't really understand what's going on. So it's that sort of thing where it's, like, a way to talk about stuff that's kind of horrific. In the case of When the Emperor Was Divine, extremely horrific. In this case, like, doggy level horrific, without it being, like, overwrought, I think, to the audience.
Yeah, like, it definitely... the way it was told definitely gave me some room to distance myself from the actual events, which I think was very helpful, because
especially in this first section and in Ellie's section, like, there was some shit in that one that I was like, I'm kind of glad we're getting this from a dog perspective and not having to get this from a human perspective, because it would be a lot.
So they live in this place called the Yard, and the mom, she's too feral, so she, like, somehow learns how to escape, and she escapes, and they never see mom again, whatever, boo-hoo. But Toby sees his mom escaping, and is like, oh, I see how she did that, and I will remember that.
File that away for
storyline.
Future storyline.
How to open a door. Yeah, so Toby learns how to open a door.
Chekhov's door opening.
And everything is going great in Toby's yard life until Senor brings home a huge, massive dog called Spike, who kind of upsets the natural order of the dog pack that Senora has collected. I don't know. I couldn't get a sense of how many dogs there were, but it seemed like 20
I
or
was
so
going to
dogs.
say around 20, yeah. And Spike,
Yeah.
because they have, like, enough that they have to split them up by age groups when they're feeding them, so...
Mm-hmm.
And Spike was, like, a dog that was used in dog fighting. Like, that's Spike's deal. So, Spike is understandably a mess. And does not play nice with the other dogs.
No, and I want it to be like, okay, yes, animals sometimes do just need some love to change, but also, like...
Don't put him with the other animals.
Yeah, you don't just shove him in there right away.
Right.
Like, okay, here you go. So, Spike, like, kind of fucks some shit up for the other animals. Like, I think he and Toby get into some argument. Little puppy Toby tries to stand up to Spike and gets his paw crushed and destroyed completely.
And Toby get in a fight with him because he's trying to, like... Essentially, he's trying to assault Sister.
Yes.
And so they're trying to... Who, by the way, got away in the first part, but then was captured later and is, like, a broken PTSD dog at this point. Like, she, can't function as a dog. Like...
Yeah, she was basically left on her own with the few, like, tricks her mom taught her.
So she's pretty much feral and hates being in this yard, but, like, can't do anything about it. So she's just, like, wandering about sadly all day. Like, that's...
It's the most sad saga
That's
dogs.
pretty fun for everybody.
Yeah. And then, so Spike does this big fight and hurts Toby real bad to the point where, like, his paw will never be... Like, it's basically destroyed, one of his legs. And then someone reports them to the police for having too many dogs.
It's the nurse at the vet. Yeah.
Okay, because she said she was like, I'll tell you before I do it, but I'm definitely going to do it one of these days. So maybe she told them, but they didn't do anything.
Well,
I don't know.
I think because they brought Toby in and she was injured. Or he was injured. So she was like, oh, these dogs are getting out of hand. They're hurting each other. Yeah. This is no longer a good situation.
Which is super fair. Like, she should have done that.
Yeah, for sure.
Ago, probably.
I mean, this woman is an animal hoarder. Like...
a little bit, yeah.
Like...
And so the police come, and they take away all the dogs, and they look at Spike, and they're like, you're too crazy, we have to put you down. And then they look at Toby, and they're like, well, no one will ever adopt this puppy because his foot is completely destroyed. Let's put him down. And then there's, like, a couple other dogs, and they gas them all in a giant room. And
with Spike, so at least, you know, he gets his, I guess.
Yeah. So at least Spike the dick dog who ruined everything in the yard got his just desserts at the end. And hopefully was never reincarnated.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works. Are the other dogs getting reincarnated? Because it's not like they talk to each other, so it's like... Yeah. I mean, well, you know, like, there's not that level of communication between the dogs.
It's not like Animal Farm sort of
levels. So, like, is there just one dog soul that's reincarnated into all of these dogs? Toby is all dogs.
The rest of the time, they're just empty vessels going through the motion, but there's one dog soul. So, Toby then wakes up again as a puppy. And I'm, like, already, like, traumatized by this first section. Like, what the fuck did I just read? This puppy lived a shit life, died a shit death. Like, I'm so
he had
mad.
no purpose.
No purpose whatsoever. The only thing he learned how to do was open a door. So then he wakes up and is reborn as a golden retriever. We never find out what the first dog is, really, because all we know is that Toby's like a small dog. I don't know, probably a mutt of some kind. To be honest,
I thought he was some sort of chihuahua because the first picture, because there's a little picture of a dog at the beginning of each chapter, and that one was a chihuahua, so I just thought that meant something, but maybe it doesn't. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Definitely a yappy dog, though.
Yeah.
So, Second Life, reborn as a golden retriever in a puppy mill.
Right, yep.
So
Which, off to another great start.
no, so I'm saying like absolutely hating this as I'm reading it. Like, okay, great. So let's just like make a bucket list of every terrible thing that could happen to a dog. Feral, fight pit dog, puppy mill dog. What next? What could possibly be next? Well, let me tell you. Born in a puppy mill, the dog uses its knowledge of how to escape from the puppy mill, or how to escape from the yard to escape from the puppy mill, and does so. Runs in the first person human he runs into.
Oh my god, I forgot about this part. I forgot about
this part. It was awful. Who locks this dog in his truck in the summer for hours, and the dog almost dies of heat exhaustion.
Oh my god, I totally blanked this part out of my memory of this book.
So I'm like, how many ways is this dog gonna die terribly?
I thought he was done at that point. I was like, well, that was a short life.
That was easy.
That was short. Poor dog.
Wow, what lesson did he learn from that? Don't get into cars with strange men. I think that's a lesson we all need to take to heart, maybe. But the whole time, like, this dog is so optimistic. Like, it's learned that humans are good. Humans aren't something he needs to hide from anymore.
Because of Senora and her posse.
Yeah, and the humans will save him. So he automatically, like, runs up to this man and loves him and is like, all right, sure, I'll wait in your car for you to come back for hours. Thankfully, a woman sees him in the car about to die. She breaks into the car and saves him and takes him home and adopts him into her family. I mean, like, without even checking to make sure he didn't legitimately belong to anyone else. Right. I'm assuming, like, she's just like, oh, a dog.
Well, she probably thought he belonged to the guy who owned the truck, and she was like, obviously he's not a fit dog owner.
This is true. Yes. I hope she at least called the police, though. If that's something the police were worried about in the 60s, I don't know.
I feel like they weren't.
But she takes him home, and she has a son, Ethan, who becomes the main focus of the dog's life, who is now renamed Bailey, the golden retriever. Bailey and Ethan are the best of friends, and we are treated to friends,
having so much fun together. Yeah, it's like that.
Movie ends very sadly. Kind of like this book does. Well, to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I hated the way it ended, but
I had a lot of opinions about the end, but not like the end, like the mid-end.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We'll talk about it when we get there. But, so we're treated to like an idyllic look back at a boy and his dog's childhood in the 1960s. Mm-hmm. Except they live near a future serial killer. Which, again... Oh
my god. He's like, okay, so his character is essentially Sid from Toy Story. Mm-hmm. Except
but Sid already moved on to animals.
Right, and like Sid in Toy Story is like, okay, but he's messing with toys. There's no reason to believe that they actually have emotions, you know? So Sid # did no wrong. This guy is like insane. Like...
Yeah, so this little boy named Todd and his family move into the neighborhood where Ethan and Bailey are just having the best of times. They, just run around and play from sun up to sundown with all the other kids and their dogs in the neighborhood. And then Todd comes and ruins everything by being a weird-ass kid. He, from the second we're introduced to him, all he wants to do is, blow shit up and destroy things and stomp on bugs. And his older brother doesn't seem to be any better, but the younger sister's a little bit I want to distance myself from these people, which is good because little sister comes back to, save the day.
Oh, does she?
Well, in the one scenario, she does. So they're growing up, and Ethan distances himself from Todd, and Todd gets super jealous about it, and decides that the best way to take out his emotions about the situation is to kidnap Bailey.
Oh.
And try to poison him in his bedroom. So the whole family knows Bailey's missing, and they're going around asking, where is Bailey? Where is Bailey? They ask Todd specifically, where is Bailey? And Todd doesn't know and has trapped Bailey in his room. And is like sticking like tubes of something smelly in his nose, which I'm guessing just is like different chemicals and stuff to try and make the dog pass out.
Because they talked about
Glue?
it being
Maybe.
like similar to the smell that was when they were like working on toys or something like that. So I was like, oh, so they were like gluing models together. And it's like,
yeah, or paint or something, some like industrial sort of chemical. Unclear, but deadly.
Yeah, but not a good sitch.
Yeah. But the little sister like waits for Todd to become distracted, and then she opens the door for Bailey to get out, and I'm assuming no one ever questions anything about that day because Bailey returns.
Yeah. Well, because he gets out a lot, and like
yes, he does.
Just kind of wanders the neighborhood at will, but he always comes back.
Because that's just, I guess there were no leash laws. I don't know.
It was a different time.
More stuff happens. Basically, Ethan just grows up. He has like experiences that a kid has. Gets his first girlfriend.
Gets lost in the woods and creates a statewide manhunt. You know, as one does as a kid.
Just normal teenage boy things.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that I forgot. I totally forgot about that section actually until
that
you
whole
just mentioned
section where they're like riding the horse because they go to the grandparents' farm during the summertime, and
because I think the parents have some marital issues to work through.
Yeah.
So the mom and Ethan go to the farm for the summer because the mom's a teacher and Ethan's obviously a student.
And they go to the farm, and at one point the grandparents and the mom go, I guess, on a trip or something. They're like out of the house for a few days. And Ethan goes and takes the horse and goes for a little horse ride with Bailey, and then a snake scares the horse and runs off, and then Ethan and Bailey get lost in the woods, and this prompts a statewide manhunt for them.
Yeah. Because I guess Ethan just walked off in the wrong direction completely.
And Bailey didn't understand that, like,
why?
Right, he's just like, well, I guess this is where we're going now.
Yeah, which is like one of kind of the more frustrating aspects of this book as well, is because the dog is the main character.
Right, and
the dog is just like, I go with my human.
And you constantly have people and here's the other thing. This was the thing that kind of annoyed me about this book, was that the people often just like explained things to the dog so that the audience would know what was going on. Like, Ethan would be like, oh gosh, Bailey, we're really lost now. We're just so lost, Bailey. And it's like, we already figured that out from the context.
We understood.
And now it's just really frustrating because you're sitting there going like, we're so lost, and we know the dog doesn't get it. So it's just very frustrating.
Yeah.
And also, I had dogs growing up. I never talked to my dogs in that way. Like, I was never, like, explaining things to them, you know? And everyone in this book...
Maybe that's why Fritz slept in Mark's bed and not yours.
Rude. That was very rude. But yeah, I just, like, never had a conversation with my dog in the way that a lot of these people do.
Yeah, and I wonder if the book would have been better if there was less dialogue.
Yes.
I mean, it's already pretty minimal as it... Well, no, but actually it's not.
It's not. And the dialogue...
There's a lot of dialogue in this book.
And the dialogue that exists is kind of, like... Especially in the Ellie chapters, Al, like, all of their conversations were so stupid and terrible. And I'm like, why do we have to listen to this? Like...
Yeah. Just write about them wrestling.
Right.
which is dog speak for having sex.
Yes. Or actually wrestling in
naked.
Some cases. You know, it just depends.
It could be. It's hard to tell with dogs.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, the dog would constantly say stuff like, I didn't understand what was happening, but here's a word for word description of their conversation, which... Okay.
Like, how do you remember that, dog? Like,
I guess we have to make some concessions for this being, like, an accessible book, but
right? Because it would really just be like a list of smells, honestly, if this was like actually from a dog's perspective.
Delicious, garbage, delicious.
Cat.
Dog butt, female dog urine. These are all Bailey's obsessions. So Todd the serial killer, Ethan, yeah, so they go to the farm, Ethan gets lost, they have some other better times on the farm. Oh, the important part about the farm sections is that Bailey learns how to save Ethan from drowning, because he thinks that Ethan jumps into the pond that's on the farm, and Bailey's like, oh shit, my human's drowning, and jumps in after him and pulls him up to the surface, and apparently Ethan was just going for a swim and was like, oh, Bailey, you silly dog, can't believe you saved me. And then, I don't know. And so that's Bailey's memory from that life, and is how to save a human.
The farm is also where we're introduced to Hannah, who will become important later on. And Hannah is the girl down the street who becomes Ethan's first girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. And assumably only girlfriend.
Yeah, I think.
Oh no. He does mention
the
women.
girl in Chicago.
So he's had two girlfriends.
At least, yes.
Let me think. What happens
Arson.
next? So he after the statewide manhunt, Ethan, I guess, is forbidden from ever going to the farm again by his dad, because I guess embarrassment or just punishment.
Well,
I don't know.
It seems like the parents especially the dad, kind of has a very weird punishment system, because they definitely neutered Bailey because of that time that he was kidnapped and they thought he ran away.
Right.
They're like, we're gonna neuter him. That'll show him. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's a weird system of retribution here. So I just think the dad is not very good at parenting either people or dogs.
Yeah, I think it's probably for the best that they ended up separating at the end there. Or at the end of this section, I guess I should say. So Ethan is no longer allowed to go to the farm, and so he spends a lot more time at home. And his animosity, he's like a senior in high school at this point. His animosity towards Todd grows so much that Todd commits arson.
As one does. This is a natural procession of things. Is you have a fight with a boy in the neighborhood, you light his fucking house on fire and destroy his leg somehow. Or I couldn't tell if the leg was damaged by the fire or by Todd. Okay, so first off, the fire thing wasn't just that he didn't like Ethan. It was that he liked Hannah when she showed up the one time. Oh yeah, that too. And he couldn't. So we had that fun trope of boy being driven to violence by girls' actions. So that's always a fun, delightful thing too.
How topical.
How great. But put a pin in that. The house was on fire. Ethan got trapped in the bedroom, and they told him to jump out the window. So I think he broke his leg jumping out the window, because they said they had to put a pin in it. So that to me means broken leg. Okay. So I'm pretty sure.
See, I was thinking that's why he couldn't get out of the house, because it took Ethan a long time to.
Yeah, I don't think. But I think that was just because he put gas in multiple places, so it went up really fast. So I think he was just trapped in his room, and then he couldn't get the window open. Was the other thing.
Well, yeah, and I was like, did Todd glue it shut? I don't know. Todd was ready to kill someone that day, which is very distressing to me. The only reason he didn't get away with it is because Bailey the dog was out on an evening stroll in the neighborhood and sees Todd with the last of the gasoline and lights the match. And so Bailey just attacks the shit out of Todd and destroys his leg, and Todd limps home and leaves a blood trail, and the police are able to follow the blood trail, and he confesses immediately to what he did. So, very stupid boy.
Which also then, after this happens, everyone in the neighborhood is like, oh, that Todd, he always was a strange one. He used to peep on the neighbors, and he was throwing eggs at the preschoolers, and I'm like, why did no one do anything about Todd?
Yes. And another dog went missing in the neighborhood suspiciously, and Bailey could smell the dog on Todd. Yeah. He killed another dog.
That one, at least, only Bailey knew about that, so it's not like the police could have. But, Ethan knew about the egg thing, and the neighbors knew about, his weird peeping on people thing.
Peeping in the windows at naked women.
It's someone should have. And also, his family life is clearly messed up. And what was it? Yeah. He, pushed a preschooler, and they went over, and the parents went over and talked to their, Todd's dad about it, and Todd's dad, started yelling and screaming about it. It's this family is a mess, and someone needs to, do something about this. Like,
surely CPS was a thing then.
Right, like this house is full of red flags. Like,
yeah. There were a lot of adults there. I think that failed Todd along the way, but also, like, you don't need to light someone's house on fire.
Yeah, it was an extreme reaction to the situation, and
he definitely tried to kill 3 people and a dog in one night. So Todd ends up going to jail, I guess, but Ethan...
I also just like how Todd kind of becomes not really Ethan's arch nemesis, but like Bailey's arch nemesis. Like Bailey keeps like there's other stuff that happens with Todd throughout this, and like Bailey kind of keeps like circumventing his plots. So I'm just like picturing Todd at home, like shaking his fist, like, I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that pesky dog. Like,
he's got like a dartboard on the wall with Bailey's picture.
It's like if the Joker
Todd
was like in an intense feud with Robin, like essentially.
Yes.
It's the situation.
Yeah. Damn that dog.
No.
Oh man. So Todd basically changes the entire trajectory of Ethan's life, because before then Ethan was on track to like go to one of the Michigan or Michigan State on a football scholarship and stuff, but he could never play sports again. So Ethan's kind of like all morose and stuff.
Except the way that he phrased it was, I can never participate in sports again. And I was like, yeah, there's that dialogue being terrible. Like,
oh yeah. But and then also like I don't know, like you can find some hobbies, Ethan.
Right.
Like, football isn't the only sport.
I mean, it was the 60s. It was a different time.
That's true.
You were a sports boy or you were a nerd.
Or Todd.
Yeah, no one wants to be a Todd.
Or you tried to kill people. So maybe not the good old days after all.
Be careful with sportslessness, for there lies the path of the Todd.
You're just one dropped catch away from a Todd at any moment.
Quickly, drink this Gatorade.
More electrolytes, less serial killer tendencies.
Lest ye become a Todd.
Oh my god. So then what happens? Let's see.
Nothing.
I mean, it's just so hard to describe these.
The rest of the Bailey chapter is Bailey gets old and then dies. Like, that's it.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, and Ethan makes it home from college just in time to see his dog die, and so Bailey is like, this is my purpose, is to find a human and love them.
And I did it, and I'm good, and now I can be dead forever.
I am a good dog. Surely.
It's done.
Yeah. Surely my time on this planet will be over. Please.
And the Amazon Kindle's like, oh, no, Bailey. You're only at 50%.
Yeah, this part of this section of the book was huge.
It was a long section.
So I was kind of under the impression, and this is mostly off of watching the movie trailer once against my will while I went to go see another movie at the theaters, that this dog was reborn like a shit ton of times.
Yes, I thought it was going to be like dog, new dog. Like,
yes.
But it was not that, which, I mean, like, good. We didn't have to live through 100 dog deaths, but.
True, that I did not want to experience that in least bit.
It was a weird amount. Like, I feel like this book could have been longer with more dogs. And it would have been like, because like there's that possible gap between Toby and Bailey, and then there's this, because this stuff is all taking place in like 60s, 70s, which we know because they talk about landing on the moon.
Yes.
And then the next one takes place right before Y2K, so it's like there's a few decades there you could fit some more dogs in, and also you've got the whole situation with Senora, which I don't know where exactly that takes place, but probably supposed to be in the South-ish, either like one of the southern states
or Southwest or something,
in Mexico or something like that, because they talk about it being like dry and dusty, and there's a bunch of people who speak Spanish, so presumably it's somewhere in the Southwest. And then there's this one which takes place in Michigan, and the next one which is in California, and then the next one which is like back in Michigan, and I'm like, why is this dog just being reborn in the U.S.? Like,
yeah, like I wish there was a little bit more diversity in the setting.
Yeah.
For these dogs' lives, and also like it wouldn't have to be a full blown out section.
Right.
You could say, and then I spent a few years as this type of dog doing this type of thing in a place that was like a rice paddy. I don't know. Like, you know, just like...
Or like what we thought was going to happen with this dog, where it's like you get born in a puppy mill and then die in an alcoholic's car immediately after, you know? Like,
yeah, but I would have hated reading that. That also sounds horrendous, though. Yeah, I just like... that was the thing I hated most about this book, is how like relentlessly mean it was to this poor dog. Like, where is the idyllic life that...
Well, I think most of the Bailey life was pretty chill. Like,
I guess mine, if you take away Todd and the manhunt and like the trauma of the dog of Bailey being separated from Ethan for the first time, and having to like sit there and read through Bailey's entire death scene of like being put down and waiting for his master to come. Oh my god, it was too much. It was too much. So third life, Ellie, dog is reborn as a female dog this time. Ellie is a German Shepherd who is, I guess we can assume, just a breeder.
I think, yeah.
Had a pretty good start in life. She is like really sad sack. Is this Ellie, or is it Bear that is just like too sad sack to do? I think that's Bear.
Yeah, it's Bear, because yeah. So no, she's like really good, because Jacob comes to check out the dogs, and he's like doing little tests with the dogs, and he's like, this dog is the smartest dog, I'll take this dog.
Yes, because dog, main character dog, narrator dog, I don't know what to call dog when they're like in this weird state between names, but soon to be Ellie dog is able to understand the tricks that Jacob wants her to do, and does them as like a month-old puppy, and they're like, wow, what a genius dog.
I'll take her.
Yes, and this was my absolute favorite part of the book. I wanted the whole book to be about this dog. Yes, I didn't want any more Bailey and Ethan shit. I just wanted Ellie, the canine search and rescue dog. Like, yes, so good.
And both of her owners, like Jacob and Maya, were both great, both delightful. Like, had actual shit going on that I cared about, and wasn't like, oh, I broke my leg and I can't be a sports boy anymore. Which, like, I'm sure that's a lot if you're 18, but like, you know, like these. I'm not 18, an 18-year-old sports boy, so I don't care. Like, pretty much. To be fair, I'm not a grieving 30-something who's working in the canine unit and kind of has a death wish. Like, I'm not that either, but like, that was way,
but it was more compelling,
way cooler than the sports boy shit.
Yeah. So Ellie is a German Shepherd who is trained by Jacob from basically puppy birth to be a search and rescue dog. And so we get a lot of time spent on Ellie working on how to find, smell, or track smells, find people, and then report that back to their handler that they found a person. So she spends her first year or so with Jacob, culminating in like this pursuit of a serial killer, kidnapper, pedophile who took a young girl from a mall, and Ellie is able to track the girl from a moving vehicle. Like, she's in a car, tracking this girl's scent on the wind because they got away in a car, and they find the guy, corner him, and the guy shoots Jacob and puts Jacob out of commission, basically, from being a police officer.
So Jacob has to give Ellie up.
I thought Jacob died.
I did too.
I was so upset.
That's the thing, because there were so many instances where people were explaining things to the dog, and then they didn't explain what happened to Jacob to the dog, and I was like, someone needs to tell the dog. I know the dog's not going to get it, but I need to know. But like,
I know.
Every other instance, I was like, this is unnecessary. Why did you not do it in the one time we needed it?
Do that cheaty author thing where they just happen to be talking about Jacob being in the hospital.
I guess it was like, increase the suspense, because eventually we do see Jacob again, and we're like, oh, Jacob's alive.
Yeah, Jacob's alive, but he doesn't want the dog. Okay.
Well, he can't have the dog because he can't love. He can't work. Well, he can't love, which was sad, but
because his wife died young.
He also can't work with the dog anymore, and he's like, Ellie needs to work. Ellie likes working. Like, she needs to be doing her job.
Yes. So Maya steps in to become certified as a search and rescue team with Ellie. I'm not quite sure how that process works, but she, I guess, her struggle was that she was not an athletic person. She was overweight, and she had to work really hard to be able to keep up with Ellie, because you have to be very fit to like run after the dog and be very quick and on your feet and stuff to work with an animal in search and rescue situations. And so there was a lot of struggle where she really loved Ellie, and she was a really good dog owner. I just loved her so much.
She was great, wasn't she? Because she like obviously loved animals because she had 3 cats, and like there were other cats kind of in this book, like other families had cats too, but like I don't know, she like seemed to actually care about her cats, and she was just like she was just so great. And that's the thing, there's like a lot that you got about her personality that wasn't stated. It wasn't like oh, you know, she's having this struggle or that struggle. It was kind of like all in the wings. And it was,
Yeah, because I think this is the life that Ellie understood the least, I guess, was what Maya was going through with, like, because Ellie being a young dog is like, why can't Maya keep up with me? Why is she running until she's like throwing up? Why are all these things happening? I just want to find people. She really takes to this job as a search and rescue dog as a way to get over leaving Ethan and having to be separated from her boy, his boy. Dog's boy. I don't know what pronouns we use there. No. So she becomes a bit of a workaholic. Let's be real. She needs to work on that work-life balance.
Yes.
So eventually Maya does get into shape enough to become certified, and they do a lot of search and rescues together. And one of the search and rescues they do is they go down to, I think it was El Salvador after an earthquake. And they're going through the town trying to find either survivors or dead bodies. And Ellie smells a survivor in a building that is closed off due to a chemical contamination of some sort. I don't know if it was like a nuclear power plant building or something, or I don't know what it...
I think it was just like chemical contamination.
Yeah. So basically what happens is Ellie goes in and finds this survivor that no one even knew was there, but ruins her nose.
She tries to, this whole part, like, she tries to get her handlers to go help this survivor, but there's a dead body there, so they think she's signaling for the dead body. And she's like, no, like, there's another person in there. We have to, like, I found them. You have to come get them. And it was so sad. Like, and then she goes in and she saves them, and I was just like, oh my God, Ellie, you're the best dog.
But then she could never work again.
She never work again. She's ruined her nose.
And shit messed up with her nose. Yeah, she never healed properly from that. But she doesn't realize it. She's like, it just became like the person they used to practice or to teach dogs how to find people. His name was Wally or something. Yeah, because it's like Find Wally, which was kind of like Find Waldo. Where's Waldo? She's like, and then from that day on, it was really hard for me to find Wally. Like, he just got really good at this hiding game and whatever, I'm a happy dog. And she got to go live with Maya full time and lived a happy life with Maya, and then died of old age.
And then they have
I forgot. Yeah.
So they have Maya starts taking her out to so we've seen Jacob once already, because he was like, Maya took Ellie to visit Jacob when she was still training, and she was like, I don't think I can do it, and Jacob's like, you have to do it for Ellie, come on, Maya. So there was like that whole scene. But then after Ellie's injury, Maya starts taking her as part of the like community outreach program to like give talks at schools and stuff, so that she can still like have a job and work. So they go to this one school. Well, I can't remember which one's first, but at one point they see Jacob, and Jacob is now married to a little girl, not to a little girl.
No.
Jacob is now married and has a little girl who is in the class. So the teacher's like, Alyssa wouldn't even be alive today if it wasn't for Ellie, because Jacob is her father, and Jacob would have died if not for, Ellie during that whole pedophile thing. But then, in an additional incident, a little boy goes missing while they're giving a talk. And Ellie goes to save him. Well, Ellie, they're like, can you...
She finds him
Ellie
first,
finds him, and he's in a sewer. And she jumps down to save him. And because she learned the whole saving people thing back in the Ethan life. When you save people from drowning, she can save this little boy.
Yes.
Which to me, that seems like that's the purpose. Like, we got to the purpose. We're done.
We don't need to... The end of book. To me, is where the book ended.
That was it? We're good.
Yeah. Ellie internalizes this message of loving people and saving them. Either from themselves or other people or whoever, but I just need to save people.
And she also internalizes the message that everybody needs to be in a relationship because of Jacob.
Yeah.
She's like, that's what we need. That's what fixed Jacob. Got it. Gonna save that away.
Yep. Totally stereotypical marriage with, 2 kids and everything. That's the only thing. Because Maya was a lot happier, too.
Yes, Maya marries her dud of a boyfriend, Al.
Yeah. So, that part was a bit... I didn't like that. I didn't care for that message too much. But, Ellie, you were enough for Maya. She could have been so happy just loving you for the rest of your life. She could have gotten without.
And Jacob
whatever.
Did not need a new wife. He needed a therapist. Like...
Yeah. And maybe just some distance and time away from
his dead cancer wife, which, like... Yeah. Another fun trope.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I guess that is an aspect of this book that's very bothersome, is everything apart from, like, the dog parts. Everything that happens to humans was so stereotypical. Yes. Like, you knew it was coming from miles away. Like, we knew Ethan and Hannah were going to break up because Ethan was going to be all surly because of this leg thing. And we knew, like, things weren't going to end well with Todd. And we knew, like... I don't know.
Which I guess, the thing that makes it fresh is that it's all from a dog's perspective. But then it's like... There is times when that kind of isn't enough to carry it.
Yes. Yeah, because it's very similar to reading a book from a child's perspective, which is something I very much do not care for. As evidenced by our episode on Little House in the Big Woods.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even read. Got the title wrong. Oh, man.
So, the shtick kind of, I was like, okay, well. After 300 something pages of it, I'm just like...
It's like, all right, well, that's enough of that.
So, Ellie died and the book ended, and everything was great. Except, we're still, like, at 70%.
Right.
There's 30% of the book
To be fair, 10% of the book was also just previews for other books by the same author.
True.
Because there were, like, 3 of them, and I was like, okay, that's excessive.
That's too much. Like, we get it. It's going to be a book from a dog's point of view.
We got, except, like, you don't need to...
We just read the book.
We don't need to preview 3 other books by you. That's really pushing it there. You're
getting
really pushing it with the upselling. Like...
I read the one. I get it. I'm good. I have no need to further delve into this world. So, dog is reborn again to a breeder. Some kind of... I think a black lab, and is, again, checking off on horrible things that can happen to a dog, adopted by someone who doesn't want the dog, to be given as a gift to someone who can't possibly raise a dog. The dog is named Bear. Bear is adopted by a man who doesn't love his girlfriend as a way to, like, I don't know, have sex with her. And the girl has to keep the dog in secret because she's not allowed to.
I assumed that he was like a rich fancy man type and she was his mistress, was the situation.
He was like a used car salesman.
Was he? Because he was like, come see me anytime you need a luxury car. So I thought he was like a rich fancy man who like owned some shit. And the way he was talking, he's like, I could do this and this and this and I could get this. And like he was like dealing real fast. You know? Yeah.
That makes more sense. I thought he was like a used car salesman, so.
Well, and the fact that, like, it's this woman that he's buying a dog for, but he doesn't live with her, like, I was like...
Or love her.
Yeah, I was like, this is like a mistress situation, was the vibe I got.
Yeah, because I think we forgot to mention Bailey, or Dog, has a superpower where they can tell every emotion that a human is feeling at any given time.
Yeah.
Every single
He's like, I didn't smell any love between them. And I'm like, what does that smell like?
What does my love smell like?
Cheetos.
I do love Cheetos.
Delicious. Tweet at us what your love smells like. No, don't do that.
So the dog is cooped up in the house and not treated well, and can only be snuck out at night to go pee and stuff.
She is not a good dog owner in other ways, in that she does not feed him on time always, and doesn't leave water out for him. Mm-hmm. She's not good at it.
No. So she gets an eviction notice, and decides to give her dog to her mother. She gives Bear to her mother and her mother's abusive boyfriend, which I'm sure you can imagine ends really well. They chain the dog up outside. Don't, again, leave it outside in all kinds of weather. Don't give the dog water.
And it's like on a short chain.
Barely feed the dog anything nutrition. Yeah, anything. He doesn't eat anything nutritious, and he has a very short chain. And thankfully, they have a neighbor who lives next door that slips meat to Bear through the fence, and eventually calls the police for animal abuse. The police come and look at the situation that Bear is in, and are like, "You need to get a longer chain," and they fine them $50. And I was like, "That's doesn't seem right," but okay, sure.
That's usually the case with animal neglect, when it's neglect instead of abuse. If there's not
that's sad.
It's a pretty high bar to have your animals taken away, unless you're an animal hoarder, or you're physically abusing the animal and there's signs of that.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. I hate people. Why? Dogs just want to love you. Why do you have to hurt them?
It's a dog's purpose.
It's a dog's purpose. So, Bear doesn't understand anything of what's happening to him. And he just thinks, this is my new life now. I just got to deal with it. And so the abusive boyfriend's I'm not paying $50. I'm just going to kill the dog. And takes the dog, puts the dog in the trunk of his car with a gun, drives out into the woods, but seems to have, at the last minute, a change of heart. And instead of shooting the dog, just dumps the dog.
Bye, dog.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Dumps the dog in the woods and drives away. And poor Bear, tries to follow. Because they're I can't believe a human would just, leave me here. And surely it is my job to be with that human, so I have to follow this human. It's so sad. Because, I'm such a dick. Why? Why, Bear? Why?
But, would you rather that he did stay with... I don't know. I'm
Nah. Yeah. I definitely didn't want them to stay.
Right.
Together.
I'm something needs to happen here, and I guess dumping him in the woods is as good as anything else.
Yeah. So he gets dumped in the woods, and he uses the lessons he learned in his very first life from his very first mother about how to scavenge and sneak around and stay away from humans. And lo and behold, dog actually ends up in the same town that Ethan's grandparents' farm is near. So...
Which, quite a coincidence, but...
Yeah,
whatever.
Super coincidence, considering this dog has gotten reincarnated in several different places. To have one repeated in such close proximity to another life
suspicious.
Is very suspicious. I don't know if God Dog was playing a role in that or not, but... So, blah, blah, blah. He smells Hannah, but it's not Hannah, it's Hannah's daughter. But he's if Hannah's around, Ethan must be around. So it becomes his mission to find Ethan.
A wild leap of logic for this dog.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess he's used to the smell of them together, of them wrestling together. I don't know.
He knows what their love smells like.
Bailey got a lot of their love smells, I think. They really didn't try to go to another room or anything.
No.
Just he's a big dog. Golden retrievers are big.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway.
Do you ask your dog to leave the room when you're naked wrestling? Let us know.
Weigh in the comments.
Tweet
below.
at us. So it becomes Bear's mission to be reunited with Ethan, and eventually he is, because he finds his way to the farm, but somehow Ethan just doesn't recognize the dog is Bailey. I can't imagine why.
Maybe because it's a completely fucking different
type
dog.
of dog. And no one has ever heard of dog reincarnation.
This
before.
is not an accepted thing.
But dog is terribly confused, refuses to go away. Ethan takes dog to the pound. Dog is about to get adopted by another family. Ethan has a miraculous change of heart, decides to adopt dog for himself, names the dog Buddy. Buddy helps Ethan get together with Hannah. They're like a stupid dog, stupid plan. Stupid
dog
worked.
prank. Hey, got him.
I know. It was very like
he goes to the
90s rom-com.
dog park where Carly and Carly's owner, who is Hannah's daughter, are at, and
yes,
follows them home, which lo and behold Hannah happens to be there, and
yep.
Hannah like checks
How convenient.
Hannah like checks the tags and is like, Ethan, oh my goodness,
Ethan Montgomery, my first boyfriend.
And then they get back together when she returns the dog.
Yes, yeah. So Ethan was like, "Hey, Hannah, want to go to dinner?" Hannah's like, "Oh, I'd love to."
The love story of a century.
Yeah, literally, because I think they're very old at this point.
Well, if we go by, we know that the donkey died, and the donkey was 44 years old when it died, and they'd just gotten the donkey when Ethan was living at the farm, and Ethan was around 18 at that point. They're in their 60s.
Okay, not as old as I was imagining then. But, so, Bailey, now Buddy, lives
donkey
out
math.
the rest of Ethan's life with Ethan. Ethan just, like, up and dies one day.
Yeah, he has, like, a stroke, I think, because it says, like, he can smell his brain breaking or something like that.
Yeah, something in his skull snapped.
Yeah.
But he's, like, he goes to his room, lays in his bed, and lives on for, like, several hours, drifting in and out of consciousness, sees Buddy kind of hovering over him, but recognizes him as Bailey.
Except not really. He just had a stroke. He probably just is mixing up his memories.
Yes, yeah. See, and I thought it was going to be okay. I was like, oh, he's just going to have Alzheimer's. Like, that's all that was. It's just like... But no, he dies in bed, and Bailey, now Buddy, is the only one there to witness it. Hannah had, like, just stepped out of the house. So he dies alone with his dog.
But
that's the end of
he has a happy life because he got married to Hannah and got to have a bunch of surrogate kids because Hannah has a bunch of kids. So yay!
Yes. Oh yeah. Because he was alone until then.
Right. Because that's what we
bachelor.
learned from our last life, that what we must do to make people happy is put them into heterosexual relationships with children, and then they will be happy. So that's what Bailey / Buddy / Bear does for Ethan, so that Ethan will be happy, because that is the only way.
There is no family but the nuclear family. It's just how it is.
The end.
So the end was stupid as shit.
Yeah, I was like really kind of annoyed. Like, I was fine with it as I was reading it, but afterwards I was like, why? Like, why is Ethan essentially the reason Ethan's the most important one is because Ethan had him when Ethan was a kid, so Ethan had no responsibilities or, like, need to do anything outside of care about a fucking dog, which, don't get me wrong, I love dogs, but it's like, oh, like, the other ones, like Senora even, like, Senora, like, cared for these dogs, wanted them to have a good life, you know, Ellie, or, Maya, like, loves Ellie, even Al, like, loves Ellie, Al is Maya's boyfriend / husband, and then, like, Jacob, like, is, like, dedicated, not necessarily, like, affectionate, but he's dedicated to Ellie, you know? So it's like there's all of these other owners who, to me, were better owners than Ethan, because, like, Ethan essentially, like, needs a babysitter 90% of the time. Most of it, like, if we're looking at this as, like, a relationship, not like a romantic relationship, but, like, every other owner, except maybe Senora, like, but even her, like, the dog and the person work together to make both of their lives better. Ethan is just, like, a little fucking kid who doesn't know what he's doing and needs to be rescued all the time. It's like...
And, like, almost killed Bailey.
Right. I'm like, listen, dog, you deserve better than this.
Yeah.
it's like your friend who's in a relationship with like a man-child who constantly needs them to do everything, and they're like, but he needs me, I don't want to leave him. I'm like, you need to
just get out, girl.
Find someone who you can be, or be alone. But this book wouldn't allow for that.
Yeah, that would be a very sad book as well. The dog with no owner. The dog with no purpose.
Think about if it ended with the dog returning to like nature and like joining a wolf pack or some shit. Like, that'd be hardcore.
And killing humans.
And finding Todd and taking his revenge.
Todd is just released from jail. He's like looking at the empty parking lot. There's no one there to pick Todd up.
That's the sun is setting. Where the dog gets reincarnated as a wolf and hunts down Todd.
Dog bounds out of the woods that's surrounding the prison and just takes down Todd and tears his throat out.
I learned when I was Ellie how to find people. Well, I found you now, Todd. Action movie version of A Dog's Purpose. So good.
But then sadly, like, the dog finds that the revenge leaves them feeling empty and sad inside.
No, get that weak shit out of here. Oh, man. Well.
So, like, there were parts about this book that I loved.
Everything with Ellie.
The Ellie section. Everything with Ellie. I want a book about Ellie and only Ellie. I want to go and read books about canine units now. And everything else was kind of dumb.
Here's what I liked. I liked the first section, even though it was sad, because I like sad shit. So I was like,
I hated
I was
that.
into it. And I liked the Ellie section.
I was about to like just tear you a new one if that was how the whole book was. I was like, Emily, I can't. I'm not. You can't even associate ever again.
And I liked the first Ethan section because, like, if it wasn't for the second Ethan section, the first Ethan section would have just been like a building block to everything else. Mm-hmm. But because it turned back to Ethan, and it's like, I have to be with my boy. Like, boo. Nah. Not a fan.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Yeah. See, I don't really care for coming of age stories too much. So the Ethan part to me was just very dull.
I mean, like, it wasn't my favorite. Like, obviously the Ellie section was the best section, but it's like, I can do a little bit of that. Like, it wasn't, that's the thing, because it was only a section, you know.
Yeah, I guess that's
And also,
true.
I will say the Todd psychopath stuff did make it spicy.
It was just so dark.
Like, usually when you get a coming of age story, you don't have a neighborhood psychopath who's lighting things on fire. Like, that was a nice addition.
Yeah. I guess it's just like, Desperate Housewives. There's always something going on behind closed doors. You just
never know. You never know who's the Todd.
You never know what your neighbors are doing. Yeah. And I also thought this book had a pretty, like, the sense of humor of the dog's narration, just like,
yeah,
like I don't know, just like dog's whole relationship with cats and just like the way that he would assert in the story about how cats were dumb and worse than dogs. But
he was friends with the one cat, Tinkerbell.
I wondered briefly if cats also came back after death, then dismissed the thought, because as far as I have ever been able to tell, cats do not have a purpose. Just like, yes, dogs rule and cats drool.
Which I guess we've kind of been talking about silver linings, you know, the Ellie section was...
Yeah.
Did you have a person or dog or cat or horse or donkey that you related to in this book?
I think, like, to give a serious answer, probably Maya was the person I related to most, just because she was just like I don't know, a happy person who just wanted to do her best, live her best life and work hard.
And she loved her animals.
She just seemed so optimistic and wonderful.
But like she wasn't like unrealistically optimistic, because she broke down about the stuff with Ellie. Like, she cried about it multiple times, you know, like while she was like running with Ellie, like, and she couldn't keep up, she'd start crying, like, you know, so like, yeah, I liked that. But that didn't make her, like, she wasn't, like, broken by it the way Jacob was.
Yeah, it made her stronger.
Yeah, and she pushed through.
I really liked her.
She was cool.
I wish she had more time.
I liked her a lot.
And I wish, like, I don't know, her stuff with Al was a little
Yeah,
bit...
Al was a dud. Like,
Al
was a dud.
I didn't care for Al. She deserved better.
Yeah. For me, it was, like, super obvious when this event happened. I was like, oh, this is me. Smokey the cat, who, during Bailey's lifetime, Bailey is supposed to be in the garage / out in the yard while everyone's out of the house. But he gets into the house and eats Smokey's food. And then Smokey, in an act of just perfect revenge, knocks down a bunch of stuff, like food and like clothes and things like that, so that Bailey can get to it. And Bailey's like, this cat's not so bad after all. It's really helping me out. And then, of course, everybody comes back and sees all of this house destroyed. And it's like, Bailey, you bad dog. And he's like, but Smokey. Like,
it was Smokey's fault.
Did it. And Smokey's just, like, living her best life.
Yeah, like that cartoon cat that sits in the corner is like...
Yes.
Like, giggling.
So, like, I really related to Smokey's single-minded need for vengeance and ability
hatred
to
of this puppy
interact or to accomplish Smokey's goals.
Now, speaking of Smokey, because Smokey does die of old age in that section, how many animals did die in this book?
I realized going through that I didn't actually keep track of them, so let's count them now. So we've got Hungry. We've got the 4 dogs that get gassed to death, so that's 5.
Yes.
Then we have I think Smokey's the next one. So
Marshmallow and Smokey, I
6,
think.
7.
Marshmallow is the dog that
Todd
does successfully kill.
Yeah. So Marshmallow and Smokey, 7. And then no one else dies until the end of Bailey's life. So
which is
8. Bailey.
Yeah.
During Ellie, we're not going to count the dead people because that's a different issue.
That's too many bodies.
Too many bodies because of that whole search and rescue thing.
And not Jacob's dead wife.
Right. That was before
she did
the
not
book,
die on page. She was off screen death.
So I think the only ones who die in that are the 2 cats. Right? So Maya's 2 cats.
Well, does one of the police dogs die?
No.
Like Cammy or Gypsy?
No, one of them's getting old and they're worried about his nose going.
Oh,
but he's not dead yet.
Okay, so that's 10.
11, isn't it? No.
2 cats.
2 cats.
So it's 10.
Well, and then 11 for
11 is Ellie.
And then
yes,
in this last section, the donkey's dead. So that's 12.
Jasper.
And I mean the horse is technically dead, but they never talk about the horse dying.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to count that one.
No. We don't care about the horse. Yep. The horse was dumb.
We don't really care about Jasper either, but they do talk about how Jasper died recently, so.
Yeah, and Jasper's death is what leads him to Ethan.
Yeah. So that's...
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that, but, like, so Bear finds the vet where he used to go as Bailey when they were on the farm, and he smells Jasper, and he uses his finding skills that he learned from being L.A. to track Jasper's scent back to the farm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's it, because Bear /
And then Ethan.
And then Ethan, but he's also a person, so he doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, I mean, 12, that's a pretty
pretty
high death count.
High death count of animals.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I thought the whole idea was interesting of just having this, like, kind of flipping the usual boy and his dog grow up and then the dog dies and the boy is sad to being like boy and his dog grow up and then the boy dies and the dog is sad. I don't.
This is true. Yeah, it was certainly not like any books I have read or would have chosen for myself either. Yeah. So that's another kind of bonus. Is like, I guess
expanded
I did find
your
a
horizons.
book. Yeah, I will never read another one.
No,
but I did slightly reach out of my comfort zone for this.
I might read the sequel to this if I have time, and I might read the other one by him about the first domesticated dog that saves humanity, which just because that seems like a ridiculous premise.
What is that even?
It was one of the previews that we got, the first one, the Dog Master.
Oh, I didn't read any of those previews.
And if you go to the very end of the book, they tell you all of his books. And so the Dog Master, 30,000 years ago, humanity stood on the brink of extinction. In this sweeping epic, Cameron tells the story of the very first dog in the history of the world and how her presence literally saved mankind. So, like, that seems ridiculous, so I kind of want to read it.
That sounds like a little too much for me. I'll pass. And then, so we did Silver Linings. Who we related to? Rather Be Reading.
Oh, yeah.
This was a weird week because, like, neither of us minded reading this.
Yeah, this is fine. I was fine reading this.
Yeah. So, I guess this book?
I don't know. I did come up with two, actually, that this put me in mind of. Not that one of them I would rather have read just because I love it so much, but the other one is, so I'll do two this week so you don't have to do one.
Oh, great.
So two didn't come up with one. So
when do I ever?
The thing with this book that, you know, like the kind of interconnected stories about a different life, but it's connected, you know, in some way, put me in mind of two, in my opinion, much better books, but, you know, you could disagree with me. Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell.
Oh, yeah, I haven't read that. I own it, but I haven't read it. But you have
like,
recommended it before.
The whole premise of that one is it's like 5 stories, I think, where it's in like a ring structure. So you get the first half of the first story, the first half of the second story, first half, the whole 5th story, and then the second half. So it goes like in and out. And there's like connections in between the two, and they move like forward. So it starts like in the past, and then it kind of moves. There's through to the present and then the future. Actually, there might be 6 stories. I can't remember right now. But anyway, it's like really good. It's a really cool structure, and there's like connections between the characters. Like it's kind of implied that they're like the same character, kind of. But then,
well, they're all either Tom Hanks or Halle Berry.
Well, there's that movie, yes. But then the other one that I was thinking of was All That Man Is by David Szalay.
I've not heard of that one.
Okay, so it's like 9 stories about like moving about 9 different men across Europe, moving forward in age. So like the first one is like 16 years old, and then the last one is like in his later years. But it's really interesting because it creates kind of like a portrait of a life, but it's 9 different lives. Okay. And it's also great because it's very dark about, like, it has a very dark sense of humor about stuff. Most of the characters are kind of terrible, and the narrator doesn't really pull punches with that. And it's just really like an interesting kind of portrait of, like, it starts out and you think like, oh, all that man is, like, and then it's kind of ends up being like this question of like, oh, is that all that man is, sort of thing. Ooh, yeah. So it's, but there's still kind of like an optimistic bent at the end. So it's an interesting read, and that just kind of put me in mind. This book kind of put me in mind of those because it's that same sort of idea of having like different plots and different characters that tell kind of like an overarching story. Yeah.
Those are good. Those are good ones. Well, I was like waiting to finish this book so I could start The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. So that was my Rather Be Reading. It's totally unrelated. I didn't do a good job of picking a Rather Be Reading this week. Emily, you are much more insightful than me. So,
I mean, to be fair, there have been times that I've just been like, well, this is on my bookshelf, so that's what I want to read.
Well, yeah, because a lot of the times the answer is like literally anything else.
Literally
I'm
any
not
book
going to be
ever.
picky. Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Do we have anything else we wanted to talk about with this book?
Not really. I'm glad it wasn't as maudlin as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be such a preachy book about like, you should treat animals better and blah, blah, blah. And I was going to be like the whole time, but I do. Right. So I thought I was going to hate it for that reason.
Yeah, because for the most part, most of the human characters tried their best to care for their dogs, even if it wasn't, except for the abusive boyfriend. Like, he was a shithead.
Yeah, he sucked. Victor sucked.
And Todd is a little monster.
And Todd was also the worst.
You know.
Todd and his older brother.
Our next episode is going to be another rewind episode. We're going to be doing a book that I hated, well, sort of, in my more like middle school years. And that is going to be Midnight for Charlie Bone by Jenny Nimoy.
Which I had never read, so
you are in for a treat. Here's the thing.
This will be so fun.
I actually quite liked this when it first came out, and I read the next 2 books. It was being released right at like the cusp of when I was too old for them, though. So like by the time I got to the 3rd book, I was like, this book is stupid and I hate it.
That's fair.
I'm interested to see if now as an adult I can be like, oh no, this was a good book for kids, or if it was actually stupid and I hate it.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. I'm excited. Is it like a fantasy, like a magic book, or what is the...
It is like, okay, so the premise is it gets compared to Harry Potter a lot, and I wouldn't say that comparison is unfair. But the premise is basically there's magic, and this boy goes to a school that's kind of for magic, but also for art. His magic power is that he can travel in and out of pictures.
Oh.
Which is...
That sounds like it would be super awesome, but...
It's... I don't know.
It depends on how it's done, yeah.
Yeah. So, check that out next fortnight. The fortnight after that, we'll be back to our challenge schedule. So Anna will be challenging 19. Me to...
Which will be episode 19.
Yes,
thank you, Anna. After 18.
Thank you. Thank you. You realize that I'm not going to be able to put the part where we talked about 18 in the episode?
Dang it.
So this is not going to make sense to the listeners.
Guys, Em can't count. Can you believe that? She does not know how to count to 18.
Untrue. Do you have a fucking challenge or not?
I do. I do have a challenge, and it's actually a book that I didn't realize was a book. It has only been to me ever a movie and then a musical. So the book I am challenging you to this fortnight is Legally Blonde by Amanda Brown.
No, that's not a book.
It is a book.
That's absolutely not a book.
It totally is.
Anna, that's a movie and a musical. That's not a book.
It's a book. And apparently...
Is it like a book that the movie is based on? Or
yeah, it's not the novelization of...
That movie is not based on a book. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I'm looking here at the book on Goodreads.
You're making this up.
It came out in 2001. I don't know what year the movie came out, but it's about Elle Woods, and apparently it's different from the movie in all the worst ways.
What? I can't believe that I wouldn't enjoy this book, though, because I love Legally Blonde.
I do, too. Legally Blonde is one of my favorite movies. I'm not going to lie.
It's one of my favorite movies and musicals.
I have not listened to the musical enough. I think I've...
Oh, we're going to have to do that at some point.
Yes. I'm looking through the reviews right now, though, and the whole front page of reviews are 2 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 3, 1. So I think...
How did it get made into a movie?
I don't know. Maybe like the one person out there who has no idea what we're talking about. I will read the book synopsis.
Real quick, the first review that came up was, I love the Legally Blonde movie, and I recently saw the musical, which I also adored, so I was ready to love this book. It turned out to be a disappointed read.
Wait, was the book disappointed in you as the
book was
reader?
disappointed in the reader, yes.
Okay, so, Goodreads summary of the book. Elle Woods, California University senior, seems to have it all. President of Delta Gamma sorority, she's aced her major, socio-political jewelry design, and is on the verge of becoming Mrs. Warner Huntington III. Too bad Warner, bound for Stanford Law, dumps her with the explanation that he now needs a more serious woman at his side. Faced with this unexpected reversal of fortune, Woods doesn't get depressed. She gets busy. Thanks to a creative application video and a demand for diversity at Stanford Law, Elle is admitted. Soon she's packing up her convertible, as well as her pet chihuahua Underdog, which that's not his name. That's a stupid chihuahua name. And heading north, determined to win back her man. Smart, fast, and funny, Legally Blonde proves just how much fun blondes really can have.
So I'm going to make a prediction now that the reason that people... Because I haven't read any of the other reviews. I'm not going to read any more reviews. My prediction is that she ends up with Warner in this book. Because how terrible would that be, right?
That would be
like
awful.
a good reason for people to hate this book.
I would
So
definitely
that's what I'm guessing is going to happen.
I did read one of the spoilery reviews because I wanted to, because I was like, I need to know.
Wanted to make sure I'd hate it?
Yeah, because I mean, we've both read our share of Trashy Chicklet and loved it. Like, I wanted to make sure that this would be painful. And from the things that they've left, the things that the movie added that the book lacks are things that really make the movie, I think.
Okay.
And so without them being there, I think this is going to be
one of those
difficult.
It's one of those things, the guy that she actually ends up with, Emmett, because I feel like it is. I feel like
my
there's no
lips
Emmett,
are
I'm
sealed.
gonna hate this book.
My lips are sealed.
Oh my god.
Don't read any of the reviews.
Okay. I think I know what I'm prepared for now, and I'm not a fan.
So I thought this would be a lot of fun because we do both love Legally Blonde so much, but this might make us look at the movie differently or maybe just love it more. I don't know.
I hope it's the latter.
Me too. I am so ready to watch the movie though.
Did we have any fan mail?
Oh, yes we did. We did have a fan mail. Let me get to that. So the fan mail starts, it's a little bit of an email chain, but it starts off with a book suggestion. I don't know, should I read the book suggestion? Should I tell people about it?
How about if you read it and I will edit it out if I decide that I don't want to have it in the episode.
This email comes from our friend Lindsay, who says, you guys should read and then follow-up email. In all seriousness, I'm fucking loving this podcast, and I'm angry that you didn't tell me about it sooner. You know I don't have Twitter. And then, OMG, Anna, you should totally read one of the terrible books that we've recommended to each other on Goodreads, like Hot Single Cowboy Falls in Love with Pregnant Widow Part 3. Why are there so many more terrible books than there are good ones? Does this count as fan mail?
It absolutely does count as fan mail.
Yes. You said a good thing about our podcast. One of the books that Lindsay sent me a link to the other day, and I did tell you about this, but I'm retelling for the purpose of the podcast, is a book written by both Bill Clinton and James Patterson, which led me to question, like, is there a third unnamed author? Like, who wrote this book? There must be. I don't believe it was either of them. But maybe one day we'll get to that.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this fortnight. Mm-hmm. If you guys know what love smells like, please tweet at us. HateReadCast at HateReadCast. Or if you have any suggestions for us or want to send us pictures of your dog, you can email us hatereadcast@gmail.com.
And
I got through it. I'm gonna need a lot of editing, but I got through it.
And thank you to Ben Cope for our fantastic theme song. In the words of W. Bruce Cameron, I especially didn't appreciate it when, with a flick of her tail, Flair, the horse, dropped a smelly pile of poo on the road, narrowly missing me. I lifted my leg on it, because it now, after all, belonged to me. But I felt fairly certain the horse had meant the thing as an insult. Oh my god.
Right, but that's not...
That's episode 18.
Right, I know.
So that will be the episode... What?
I know what the numbers are.
I'm just confused about what you're asking.
I know how to count to 18. I want to know what episode 18 is.
Charlie Bone.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's it. Charlie Bone. Record episode 18, Charlie Bone.
What you said is the next episode is episode 18, and I'm like, yes, I know.
Sorry. In my head, I was looking at where it said episode 18 parentheses Charlie Bone.
All